Late at night, Nick's ride home turns eerie when a bruised woman appears. Her bloody tears haunt him. This story comes from Nick, and it happened not too long ago. Nick shared that on that day, he'd just finished some overtime work on a Saturday. Afterward, he and some coworkers hit up a local bar in a small town in Ohio to unwind. He had a couple of beers, nothing too heavy. It was a quiet night, and though it was a holiday weekend, Nick didn't think much of it. He's not the superstitious type, but he's not one to disrespect anything either. Here's what went down. After the bar, around midnight, Nick hopped on his motorcycle, a Harley-Davidson, mind you, to give one of his buddies a ride home. The guy lived out in a rural part of the county, down a long, winding backroad lined with cornfields and old farmhouses. After dropping his friend off, Nick was cruising back toward town. That's when it happened. A young woman stepped right out in front of his bike. Nick slammed on the brakes, nearly losing control. He swears he almost hit her. When she turned to face him, Nick recognized her instantly. She worked at a karaoke dive bar he'd been to a few times. One of those places off the highway where locals go to sing bad country tunes. She'd served him drinks once or twice, always with a smile, but tonight, her face was streaked with tears, and in the dim glow of his headlight, he could see bruises, dark, ugly marks across her cheeks and arms. Concerned, he asked, "Hey, it's late. Ain't the bar closed for the holiday?" Her voice was shaky as she replied, "I just broke up with my boyfriend." She looked rough, like she'd been through something bad. Feeling bad for her, Nick offered to give her a ride back to her dorm at the nearby community college. She gave him a weak smile and climbed on the back of his bike. Gripping his waist tightly, he asked for directions, and they took off down the road. The ride was quiet, with the wind roaring past. Talking wasn't really an option, but as they turned onto a narrow road she'd pointed out, Nick noticed something strange. Every dog in the neighborhood was barking, howling. Really, as his bike roared by, it gave him the creeps. But he brushed it off. Small towns, right, dogs bark at anything. Then, out of nowhere, she shouted for him to stop. Nick slowed down, confused, and glanced around. They were nowhere near the college. The road was pitch black, surrounded by dense woods, with only a faint streetlight flickering in the distance. "Yo, we're not at your dorm yet," Nick said, turning to her. She stepped off the bike. Her eyes locked on his. "I want you to stay with me," she said, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her face. But those tears, they weren't normal. They were red, like blood. Nick's heart stopped. He'd never seen anything like this in his life. Panic hit hard. His Harley's 1,200cc engine roared as he gunned it, tearing down the road as fast as he could. Rain started pelting down, but he didn't care. He just wanted out of there. He didn't stop until he was back in town, shaking and soaked to the bone. A few days later, Nick went back to the karaoke bar to ask about her. The bartender's face went pale when he described the girl. Turns out, she'd had a fight with her boyfriend that night and stormed off. Walking along that same rural road, her boyfriend didn't go after her. The next day, someone found her body in a ditch, right where she'd told Nick to stop. The police figured she'd been attacked, possibly worse. Hearing that hit Nick hard. He went to a local church and lit a candle for her, hoping she'd find some peace.